Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about some of the preparation that I've been doing for the bosses in the new raid. It's called Sepulchre of the First Ones, but you guys probably know that already. Um, so Blizzard announced recently that the PTR for 9.2 wasn't going to go live until after Thanksgiving. And at the time of recording this video, it is officially after Thanksgiving, so I'm imagining that the PTR will be coming pretty soon, which means that we really got to start kicking it into gear if we want to be fully prepared going into the new raid, which I do want to be. So I figured I'd make this video just to talk about some of the key events that are going to be happening in the coming months. One of the big ones is going to be boss testing on the PTR. So in the past, in Sanctum of Domination, for example, they set aside a couple days. They would test like 3 bosses at a time. There'd be like a 3-hour block, and during those 3 hours, for the first hour, you get to fight one of the bosses. So let's say the Terragru. Then the next hour, you get to fight a different boss. So like when they did it for Sanctum of Domination, they didn't do them in order. So it was like the Terragru, and then you tested Guardian of the First Ones, and then you tested the 9, for example. So I imagine that that will happen for this raid as well. Although there's been some debate. I think Blizzard has even come forward and said that they're still not sure whether they're going to test the last 3 bosses or not. That would be different from Sanctum of Domination, at least, where Sylvanas was tested on normal and heroic, or at least heroic. I'm not sure about normal. But in Sanctum of Domination, for example, every boss was tested on all difficulties up to Mythic, except for Sylvanas, who was tested on Heroic but not Mythic. So that's going to be one big event that's going to happen in the coming months that will really start to get the wheels turning in 9.2 on the way, right? So in order to be prepared for that raid testing, I'm doing some work now so that I don't have to do all of this when the raid testing is actually happening, right? Because you only have 1 hour per boss typically, and you want to make the most of that hour that you can. So I'm just going to go over the Solitary Guardian. I'll leave a link to this article in the description. I'm not going to scroll through and read it because I have it all in a spreadsheet over here. But I will leave a link to this article in the description. It's got the entire dungeon journal for the whole raid. So it's got every single boss. It's got all of their abilities that are at least in the dungeon journal. I haven't looked at most of them yet, but I have done all the notes that I'm going to do on Solitary Guardian, and I wanted to walk you guys through that just to show you maybe what kinds of things you guys should be thinking about if you're going to do PTR testing as well. So, warning, this is going to be bright, so I'm going to click over to the spreadsheet in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now that we're on the super bright spreadsheet, this is my spreadsheet where I'm going to keep track of all my boss notes. So right here we've got the Solitary Guardian sheet, and this is basically a rundown of the entire fight. So I'm just going to walk you guys through it and talk about things that I'm interested in, and things that I want to keep in mind going into the raid testing. So first off, in this fight, there are going to be a bunch of ads that are called Automa. So Automa are like the people who wander around the new zone. I think there are bad Automa, and I think there are also good Automa. It's like almost like a mechanical creature. So they're not like straight robots, but they're more like robots that are alive and walk around and live or whatever. So there's going to be a bunch of these ads called Automa, and there are going to be 4 types in this fight. And so let's just go through the types. My initial thoughts after reading through the fight are that there are some Il'gynoth from Emerald Nightmare vibes. He's the one who is just the like eyeball in the center, and you have to drag the blobs to him and explode them to do damage to it, and then you run in and fight the like core or whatever. So I'm getting some vibes from that guy mixed with the Guardian from Sanctum. If the fight is just blast ads, then do priority damage to the main ads, then Shadow should be fine. We're pretty good at doing priority damage. If it's just single target the boss while the Windwalkers kill the ads, then Shadow is also fine because we're pretty good at single target. If it's mass spread AoE, that would be probably the worst case scenario for Shadow as far as this fight is concerned, because we are likely not going to be I mean, there's some argument to be made for whether Misery is going to be better in 9.2 than it is right now, but we're definitely not a spread cleave class currently. So those are my initial thoughts, and then let's just go through the different types of Atoma, and then I'll walk you through the different phases in the fight. So first off, we got the main Atoma that we need to pay attention to. They're called Automated Defense Matrix. So these guys, similar to Guardian of the first ones in Sanctum of Domination, the boss will occasionally do this ability that's called Expose Core. And when the boss does that, it does like the pulsing raid AoE, and you're going to need to stand underneath this force field to not die, right? So it reduces the damage you take from the exposed core by 90%, which is huge, right? So I imagine it will be tuned pretty high. Like, you probably won't be able to take any ticks of the exposed core outside of the force field without popping, like, a defensive or two, like Dispersion or something. With Dispersion, I imagine you could live some, but we're going to talk about that a little. So my notes, okay, so these guys create the force fields when they're powered up. I should also mention all of the Atoma start out powered down until restored to full power. So I imagine they're going to have like energy bars underneath their health bars or something. And then once they hit a certain amount of energy, they power up and you can start doing things with them. And there are still a lot of questions to be answered. Like, we don't know exactly how much energy these guys need to be powered up. Like, for example, these small dudes drop small cores, which increase energy by 1. These guys drop medium cores, which increase energy by 4. And then there's some that increase energy by 5. So it could be that maybe 5 is how much energy something needs. And these could have like different values for what they need to become powered up, right? So maybe these automated defense matrices only need 5 to power up, but maybe these point defense drones need 10 or something to power up. Who knows? So that's all still in the air. That's something that we won't know probably until we actually test the boss. But there are things that we can think about. So I wrote some notes over here. If the unstable cores, so when you kill these guys, they drop an unstable core. And when you pick up the unstable core, it's going to reduce your movement speed by 50%. You take some ticking cosmic damage. And then once you get close enough to the Solitary Guardian, kind of like the orbs on Remnant of Ner'zhul, once you get close enough to the Solitary Guardian, you're going to be able to press a button that lets you detonate the core. And when you detonate the core, it's going to do 15% of the Solitary Guardian's health. So, if the boss is kind of like Il'gynoth and Emerald Nightmare, where it takes 99% reduced damage except for from these abilities, then 7 of these guys would be enough to fully kill the boss. 7 times 15 is 105% of its HP. If you had 6, you'd be at 90%, right? So you would need 7 to kill him. And then, yeah, the cores are like the orbs on Remnant, so Orb Runner classes are probably going to be important. Tiger's Lust, Freedom, that kind of thing. Although, unlike Remnant, you probably can have more people carry these cores because they're not going to have to avoid getting knocked off the platform. So anyway, I imagine there will be 7 of these guys if these are the only way to damage the boss. If these are not the only way to damage the boss, maybe you can only damage him like this during Phase 1. You need 3 of these cores to get to 55% HP, which is where Phase 2 starts. So there may only be 3 of these guys as well. And then the exposed core as well, the big AoE that you need the force field for, is only listed under Phase 1 abilities on this boss. So it potentially only happens while the Guardian is locked in its door thing that it's locked in when you start the fight. So the way the boss encounter is going to happen, the Guardian won't be able to move in P1. It's going to be stuck in one spot. You're going to bring these cores over to it, explode them, and eventually at 55%, when it phases to Phase 2, it's going to start running around smacking people. And then once it gets to Phase 3 at 15% HP, it's going to just start pulsing like the Guardian of the first ones in Sanctum of Domination, where it just does Purging Protocol over and over and over once you're out of cores. It's going to do that kind of thing where it's just going to ramp damage over time and you have to kill it before it kills you, right? Yeah, so potentially the exposed core is only going to be a Phase 1 thing, so you may only have to deal with this mechanic in Phase 1. The things that I want to keep in mind during Phase 1, and specifically that have to deal with these ads, are: can you life grip the core runners? So the people who are carrying the cores, their movement speed is reduced by 50%, but you could potentially life grip them to the boss to explode them, right? So that's something that I want to test once we get to the PTR. I'm interested to know if Disperse will negate the slow from the core. Dispersion removes movement impairing effects, so it could potentially mean that instead of being reduced by 50%, you're reduced by 0%. You can just run it over there really quick. If that's the case, you probably don't want to waste Dispersion like that, but if there's no better time to use it during the first 2 or 2.5 minutes of the fight, then it's probably fine to use the Dispersion early on in the fight, just to get the core there quicker, and then you'll have it up for later in the fight when the damage starts to ramp. So that's something I want to know. And then the last thing I want to know is, can you mind control these automated defense matrices? My initial thoughts are no, because I imagine they won't be like humanoid or anything. I imagine they're going to be mechanical, probably, or something like that, in which case you probably can't mind control them. But this could be extended to, can you stun them? Can you fear them? Can you shackle undead? What kind of utility can you use against these guys to stop them from doing stuff? So that's what I want to know about these automated defense matrices. And then moving on to type 2, these are the guys who will likely be the majority of your energy generation, I think. So they're called Reclamated Materium. They're awakened by running over their remains, and they drop a small core when defeated. So I'm guessing that you're going to go into the boss room, and these guys are going to be laying dead on the floor wherever. And as you run over them, when you're dodging stuff, or intentionally, depending on if you need energy or whatever, these guys will start popping up, and you have to start killing them. So I wrote here, likely the main source of energy, worth keeping in mind that Shadow can talent into mass stacked AoE without losing almost any single target damage. So our Twist of Fate is like 3% increased damage only during execute, and that's not very much. And if we talent into Searing Nightmare instead, we can do a lot of mass stacked AoE and lose very little single target damage. So Shadow might be a good option for killing these guys if these guys turn out to be like pretty weak HP wise, and you need a lot of them, so you're spawning a bunch of them and stacking them up and burning them all down. But at the same time, Windwalkers exist, and Fire Mages exist, and Havoc Demon Hunters exist, so maybe Shadow won't be the best option for this, but who knows. It's something that I thought was worth mentioning, because if you do get to the point where you're having to defend why you should bring a Shadow Priest to this fight, that could maybe be a reason. So their abilities, they surge, so they charge an enemy, inflicting 56,000 physical damage to the target. That is a big number. That's like all of my HP right now. And any of its nearby allies within 10 yards, which is a pretty big circle as well. Victims of this attack are knocked back. So we're going to have more HP, so this probably won't be a one-shot mechanic. We'll probably have like 70,000 or something, maybe more. So you'll likely be able to survive this if you're at max HP, but I am interested to know some things about this. First off, can you stun / fear / shackle these Materium guys? So let's say when they cast Surge, it's like they have to fixate somebody and then start casting it. Maybe you can interrupt the cast even. So I'm interested to know how you can prevent the surges from happening. If they're not preventable, then I'm interested to know, can you life grip somebody out of the surge as it goes off? Because it says it charges an enemy, dealing this much damage to the target and any nearby allies within 10 yards. So I'm interested to know, does it charge to where you were and you can life grip somebody away from there and avoid the damage? Or is it going to charge to the person, and if you life grip them, it'll just turn and come towards you and hit you both, right? That kind of thing. I think it's likely the second one, but it's worth testing. I want to know what defensives are necessary to survive the charge. I think it's pretty straightforward that you're not going to get one shot by this if you're at full health with the new amount of stamina we're going to have, but can you survive it with just a fade? Are you going to want to Desperate Prayer it? Do you even need to disperse these if they're going to charge you? And then I want to know, can you mind control them? I think the answer is probably no. Can you life grip somebody carrying this core? Because these are different cores, by the way. So these guys drop unstable cores, but these guys drop small cores, even though it calls it unstable core in here. I want to know, is this a different thing than the core up here? And can you life grip them if they're carrying this core, right? So that's something worth knowing. Can you fade to force a surge to retarget? So maybe the Materium is pointing at you, it's got surge, it's fixating you or whatever, and as it's about to go off, you press fade and it stops casting and maybe has to turn and recast on somebody else. That's something I'm interested to know. Again, I think that's probably unlikely, but it's worth testing all of these things, like I said. And then the other thing I want to know is, can you Fleshcraft, get the ultimate form or whatever from Marilith, and prevent the knockback that happens? So let's say you are definitely going to be hit by this, nobody can stun it, and it's not going to die before it charges you. Can you just Fleshcraft and not get knocked back? Because let's say you've got one of these guys alive, and it's surging you, but you're standing inside this force field, and if you get knocked out of the force field, that'd be really, really bad, right? So maybe at that point, you need to stay in the force field, so maybe you can cancel the knockback with Fleshcraft. I'm interested to know about that. Obviously, you've got other options. You could Goblin jump back in, or you could stand in such a way that you're not going to get knocked out of the force field when you get knocked back, that kind of thing. So those are things I want to know about these Materium. The third one is the prefabricated sentry. These are activated by the Solitary Guardian throughout the encounter, so you won't have to power these guys up. The Guardian is going to power them up on their own. And then they drop 2 medium cores when defeated, so that's 8 total energy. So a medium core is 4 energy, a large core is 5, and the small cores are 1. So these guys drop 2 medium cores, which means they drop the most energy from a single target that you can get, right? So they drop 2 of those. They've got this tank icon, because I imagine with their abilities as well, they seem like tank ads. I wrote that they're similar to A-bombs on KT. Probably don't have to think about these guys too much outside of making sure you're not tanking them as a Shadow Priest. If you're a tank, obviously you're going to want to tank these guys, right? So they've got a couple different abilities. First, they've got Wave of Disintegration. Smashes the ground beneath the target, inflicting 60,000 cosmic damage to all targets within 5 yards. So it's a cleave, right? So you don't want to be standing on that. The impact creates a wave of disintegration that explodes in rapid succession, inflicting 60 cosmic damage. So this 60 is not going to be the final number, almost certainly, or else, I mean, that's like no damage, so why would they add that? So this is probably going to be more damage. So I'm interested to know how much damage is that going to be? Is it going to be easy to dodge? Is it going to be hard to dodge? But that'll be something that we won't know until it happens. Dissonance slams the target for 74,000 physical damage. This is a lot of damage. You almost certainly will get one shot by this if you're not a tank. The victim's defensives vibrate with dissonant frequencies that increase the damage taken by further attacks of dissonance by 20%. So this is just the taunt swap mechanic for the tanks. And then they drop these medium cores. So the things I want to know about these guys. First off, what defensives are necessary to survive a smash? So let's say a tank dies and you guys are about to kill the boss, but in order to kill the boss, you need to survive one of these smashes. It's very integral that you survive this smash. I want to know what's necessary for that. Can you fade it and survive? Can you Desperate Prayer and survive? Do you need a Desperate Prayer and fade to survive it? Or do you need to pop all 3, maybe Dispersion, Desperate Prayer, and fade? I want to know exactly what you can do to survive this, right? Because you don't want to be in that moment where the boss is about to die, but the boss will only die if you survive a smash, and you don't know how to survive it. The next thing I want to know, can you life grip somebody out of a smash? So the wording of this, it says smashes the ground beneath the target. It doesn't say smashes the target like this one does. So this one says slams the target, which implies to me that it's completely unavoidable. Whereas this one smashes the ground beneath the target, could still technically be unavoidable, right? But it leaves room for maybe it can target the tank, be about to slam, you life grip them right out of it, it slams the ground, and then nobody has to take any damage. So that's worth testing. I want to know as well, can you mind control these guys? Again, I think not. Can you life grip somebody carrying the medium cores? And can you stun / fear / shackle these sentries? Again, I think the answer is likely no, but it's worth testing all of that stuff just in case you get into the scenario where you need to do one of those things, like I said. So next we're looking at the Type 4 guys. These are the point defense drones. it looks like we will have to power up these guys. So as far as what you have to power up, these Materium dudes, you just step on them. You don't have to give them any energy. And these sentries get activated automatically by the boss. So 2 of the 4 won't take any energy. The only ones that will take energy are definitely the automated defense matrix, and then probably the point defense drones. So these guys, they target enemies at random with its blast ability once powered up, and they drop a large core when defeated. So what does blast do? Blast fires a volley of missiles at random targets. So this is again going to be similar to the sentry that flies around on Guardian of the First Ones, that inflict 22,000 cosmic damage to all enemies within 3 yards of the victim. So this is an interesting thing to note. This is going to want you to spread, right? You don't want to be within 3 yards of anybody to prevent cleaving this damage, but depending on how big this force field is, that might be impossible. You might not be able to spread everybody out far enough to avoid all cleave damage if you need to stand in the force field at the same time. So that's worth noting. And then they just drop the large core that increases energy by 5. I will mention that all of these, the large core, the medium core, and the small core, say that they reduce your movement speed by 0%. I think it's likely that that is just a placeholder number, and they're going to be different percentages. I think a small core will probably reduce it by a little, whereas a medium core will reduce it by more, and a large core will reduce it by a lot. But that's not guaranteed, so depending on those things, it'll change who you want to grab those cores. So what I want to know about these point defense drones are just the same things I want to know about all the other ones. Can you life grip somebody who's carrying the core? Can you stun, fear, or shackle these guys? Or can you mind control them? I also wrote, not sure why you'd need to fight these guys. Maybe there's a finite number of ads, so you have to. Or maybe you don't get enough energy from the little dudes. Probably don't want one of these dudes alive when you have to stack on the force field for the whole blast cleaving thing that I was talking about earlier. So let's say you have to get 3 of these dudes to phase the boss to phase 2, right? But let's say there's only enough reclamated Materium around the room to get enough energy for 2 of these guys, right? If that's the case, and let's say you only get 1 of these prefabricated sentries, which is not enough energy to fill up another automated defense matrix, then you would potentially have to spend energy on these point defense drones so that you can get more energy to spend on the automated defense matrix. That's one way that this fight could happen, but who knows? So we'll just have to see. I imagine they wouldn't add this ad unless you're gonna want to fight it, right, or need to fight it. So I think there's room for strategies where you could avoid these, but I think you'll likely need to fight these guys. But so that's all the Atoma, and that's what they do and what I want to test with them. Now we'll just talk about the phases and what they do and things that I want to test. So phase 1 is pretty straightforward. While above 55% health remaining, the Solitary Guardian protects itself while remaining installed in the gateway. So it starts at 100% HP. The first core that explodes will take it down to 85% HP. The next core will take it down to 70%. And the third core will put it at 55%, which will start phase 2, right? So during phase 1, the boss will do energy conversion, which inflicts 60,000 cosmic damage to all players within 5 yards and creates a spike of creation at the target location. My guess is this is just going to be a big swirly you have to dodge, similar to the big things that you have to dodge on Goroth at the beginning of Tomb of Sargeras, I'm guessing. But that's a lot of damage, so you really want to dodge it. And then once the spike of creation is there, what they do is they leave a spike of creation at the target location that arms after 3 seconds. So if you do happen to get hit by this, you have 3 seconds to run out of it before it's armed. If you stand in the spike of creation, you cause it to explode, inflicting 2,998 cosmic damage every 1 second until canceled, which leads me to believe that it's a permanent debuff that's going to need to get dispelled, maybe, or something like that. And it also does a burst of damage when it first explodes, and this affects stacks. So it's going to be a real estate fight, right? You're going to need to watch where you're standing, where the spikes are spawning, all that kind of thing. And I want to know, is this something that we can mass the spell? Because that would be interesting. And then the next ability is De-Resolution. A beam of immense power sears a line across the battlefield that triggers several explosions, each inflicting 7.5 thousand cosmic damage to all players caught within the blast. That's not a lot of damage, so depending on how tight these explosions are, like, can you just get hit by 1? Do you get hit by 3 every time the beam goes past you? That kind of thing. I imagine this is going to be 100% dodgeable. You can just walk out of the beam and not ever take damage from this, but it's worth keeping in mind how much damage it does. And then this is the exposed core cast. The construct exposes its core as it draws in matter to reclaim. All players suffer 150,000 cosmic damage every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. So that is a big number. So I want to know, in this phase, my notes are dodge spike swirlies, dodge the beam, kill the ads. That's pretty much all you have to care about. Other thing to keep in mind is move the cores to the boss, but I didn't think that was worth writing. Things to test. Can you damage the boss without the core? So I want to know, is the boss taking 99% reduced damage, or can you just hit it, right? Because if you can just hit it, then maybe you can phase it at specific times to have certain raid abilities ready, that kind of thing. So that's worth testing. I'll probably just put a Shadow Word Pain, hit it with a couple Mind Blasts, see if it's taking a lot of damage or not. Can you mass dispel the dot from the Spike of Creation? What defensives are necessary to survive a beam? That's very important to know. And then how long can you survive outside of the force field with Disperse? My guess is if you Disperse, you're going to take like 75% reduced damage of this, which is going to be like 120k, maybe 115k, something like that, less. So you'd be taking like 45,000 damage, which you could probably survive 1 tick, probably not survive 2 ticks. But we'll have to see when we actually get to it. So these are questions I want answered for Phase 1. For Phase 2, after players have damaged the Solitary Guardian with sufficient detonation from throwing unstable cores, the creature emerges and fights players directly. It still does the spike creation thing where it puts a swirly down and makes spikes, so that's going to still happen in Phase 2. And then it's got some other tank abilities. Split Resolution smashes the ground beneath the target, inflicting a bunch of cosmic damage, creates a series of split resolution zones that explode in rapid succession, inflicting some amount of cosmic damage, and the target is defenseless for 30 seconds. So this is going to be very similar to the cast that the ad did before, where it smashes the ground. So I wonder, can you life grip somebody out of that kind of thing? It also will have Fractured Core going. Damage sustained to this point has fractured the Solitary Guardian's core. All players suffer 16,000 cosmic damage every 3 seconds. I think this is going to be unavoidable. I think this is just going to be pulsing AoE damage for the entire phase. So things are going to start to ramp up once you get to Phase 2. And then Matter Dissolution marks the target for Matter Dissolution for 10 seconds. When this effect ends, multiple orbs of antimatter form in a large circle around the victim. They inflict however much damage to any player they come in contact with. So this is probably going to be a run this out mechanic, right? So it'll be interesting because you're going to have to run away while also avoiding these spikes, while also avoiding all the stuff that everything else is casting. You won't have the beam anymore, most likely, because it's this de-resolution thing from Phase 1. So it probably won't be casting that, and it doesn't have exposed core anymore in Phase 2. So my guess is that it's not going to be doing either of those things in Phase 2. Which leads me to believe as well that there won't be any Automa left in Phase 2, but we'll see if that's going to be the case or not. And then in Phase 3, okay, so the things that I wrote about Phase 2, spikes still happen, don't get smashed, dodge explosions from the smash, dodge the orbs. And then the things that I want to test, again, can you life grip somebody out of the smash before it hits them to avoid the damage? What defensives are necessary to survive a smash in case, again, you have to survive one to kill the boss? What defensives are necessary to survive an orb? So let's say you're standing there and an antimatter orb is coming and it's unavoidable. Like, the only ways to move away from it would be going through these spikes that you don't want to go through. What do you need to pop in order to survive that? And then Phase 3, the final phase. Stage 3, at 15% health remaining, the Solitary Guardian activates a self-destruct sequence. Basically, it just stands there and pulses damage that increases by 30% every 3 seconds. So every 10 seconds or so, this damage is going to go up times 2, right? So for the first 10 seconds, for the first 3 seconds, it'll do 7,000. Next 3 seconds, it'll do like 9,000, almost 10,000. Then 3 seconds after that, 30% more, basically. All I want to know on this fight, it's the burn phase, so you are going to want to save Disperse for as late into the phase as possible. Depending on how long this phase lasts, it's only got 15% health remaining, so maybe this is going to be maybe it's going to be a pretty short phase, like less than 30 seconds. If that's the case, then you can not get 2 fades, but if it's longer than 30 seconds, you could potentially fade at the very beginning and then also fade later, way late into the phase. So you'd get 2 uses, which would be good. And then you want to do Big Dam, obviously. And then things to test, nothing really. Biggest thing is figuring out when you're going to use defensives in this phase, right? Because there's a lot of avoidable stuff in the earlier phases where you're probably not going to need to use your health potion for like this guy, the point defense drone, maybe, but maybe not. And then you probably will still have your health stone as well. And then, yeah, I just want to know what will be the optimal way to use your defensives when we get to this phase. So that's basically everything I wrote about the Solitary Guardian. I'm going to pull up this spreadsheet when we're doing raid testing, and I'm going to go through and write over here, yes, no, no, that kind of thing. And go through and have these answers so that when progression does come around, I can come back here and I can say, I don't remember, could you life grip those core runners? And I'll have my answer from when I did the PTR testing. So yeah, I'm going to go through and make one of these sheets for every single boss. I could potentially make videos about them, but it depends on if we've got any super elite strategies or whatever that I don't want to leak to people, that kind of thing, and if people are interested. So this is just the kind of thing that I do before we go into PTR testing so that I can be as prepared as possible for the new tier. I would suggest that you do something similar. Maybe you don't have to make something as big and complicated as this, but you should at least, go through and read the abilities and have an idea of what stuff is going to happen when the boss fight comes around. Hopefully this helped you guys. If you liked the video, make sure you click the like button. If you really liked it, feel free to subscribe. Maybe check the description for a link to my Discord server. Come hang out with us, that kind of thing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!